So about a year ago, I did a video on the biggest diorama that I have ever printed in 3D printing. And that was the Juggernaut versus Colossus from 3D Wicked. So I printed this monster in a 1/4 scale, and I totally underestimated the size of this thing. And because of that, this thing takes up a lot of space. It took over 17,000 grams of resin. Yes, that's right, 17 kilograms, 17,000 grams of resin to print this, and it is hollow. So a year later, I am finally able to start painting this big, huge monster of a piece. And today we're gonna start out with part one. This is gonna be a 3-part series. Today, part one is going to be Colossus. Now, because it's been over a year that I printed this, there's been a couple of pieces to drop off the table and break, and I've had to reprint them. But we're gonna go ahead and start on Colossus right now. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and paint these a gloss black for the base and use a silver chrome over the top of them. Okay, and for the next thing I'm going to do for the body, everything that's going to be shiny, I'm going to go back and put that same black coat on there. So up into the arms, on the sides of the waist here, the legs, and this is a big boy here, so I've got this panned out a little bit so you can kind of see the most of it. But we're going to go ahead and put that black coat on here so we can do that in the chrome paint as well. Yeah, kids, so beware. This is what happens when you fill your airbrush cup a little too much. You spill paint everywhere. Oh, man. Anyway, we'll get it done, though. Now, the next thing we're going to do, since we got everything painted this gloss black, I'm actually going to use this chrome color here from Vallejo. And we're going to go ahead and paint the heads and that part of the body that we painted black. We're going to paint them this chrome color. So here we have everything chromed out, and looks all shiny and everything. And for me, it's a little too shiny. So I'm going to let this dry, and then we're going to kind of dull it out a little bit. We're going to do a little bit of smoked chrome here, is kind of like what I like to call it. This is the process of dulling it down with a wash. And so we're going to do that so it's not so shiny, and see how it goes from there. So as I said before, this chrome head here is a little too shiny for me, for my liking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this black wash here, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of slather it all over everything. It's going to look a little funky at first because, again, you're putting a black wash over a chrome, and it's going to look really muddy. So we're going to do this real quick and see how it looks in the end, and then I'm going to show you a couple of other neat little tricks to do to it. All right, so if you had any idea, you guessed it, we're going to take and wipe a little bit of this off with a wet cloth here. We're going to just kind of go through a little bit, wipe some of that off. You get it all in that detail into those cracks and crevices and stuff, and it dulls it out a little bit. Gives it a lot of depth on here on the face. It goes into the cracks and crevices, like I said. Didn't I say that already? All right, and then we're going to let that dry and see what the upcoming result looks like. And we'll go ahead and do the same thing to the other head. So another thing you can do is, if you want to go a little bit further within that depth to get that detail out, you can add another little coat on there. You can actually let it dry, and again, use water, don't use thinner, but you can go back in and wipe that off pretty much after it's dry off of a metallic surface, and it should come off okay as long as you don't go in and press too hard. But I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then I'm going to take it right back off, and you'll see the details just really pop. All right, so on the body here, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go ahead and put a black wash on it, and then we're also going to take that towel and wipe that off as well. And here we go. All right, so now we got everything on and off again. It's okay that you don't have all these details really popping out right now, because we're going to go in, we're going to actually put the lines in, and we're going to do some airbrushing and stuff for some of the shading on here. The main thing on the body part is to really just get some of that shine out, kind of give it a little bit more of a smoked feel, so that way when you actually put your shading in and stuff like that, it's just going to enhance it that much more. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to let this dry, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start on blocking out the body. Okay, so now we're going to start on the suit, and the first part we're going to do is the inside right here, which is yellow. And for that, I'm going to use this Tamiya flat yellow here. This stuff coats really, really well on the first couple of coats, whereas with another paint, it's going to take me forever and several coats to actually get this thing covered up. And I will not mask this off. So we're going to get started on that right now. All right, so I am going to airbrush this. I was thinking that I would get like overspray and stuff on the metal part, but if I'm careful, I won't. So we're going to go ahead and airbrush this and just be done with it. And now we're going to paint all of the red parts. For that, I'm going to be using this Pro Acryl Bold Pyrrole Red. Well, one thing I forgot to do was I forgot to paint the hands, the black base, and then use the chrome over that. So we're going to go ahead and brush paint these and see how it turns out. Should be fine. Okay, so now that we have all that done, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with some black and just go in and put the black in the lines right here of the armor. So moving on, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and do some of the shading with the airbrush. And for that, I'm actually going to use this orange rust here. This is the Bottle Air from Vallejo. And now for the final part on the body, I'm going to do some black shading I'm going to do it all in the red areas and all up into the muscle tone. And I'm going to kind of darken this up a little bit, smoke it out a little bit more, if you will, do the legs and everything. And that is the last part that we're going to do on the body. And then we're going to do the belt, and then we're going to work on the heads. Now, once I got all of the shading done, I've got some pretty harsh lines here in the red. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of that red, go back in almost like a dry brush effect. Well, it is dry brushing. And I'm going to kind of soften up those lines there. You can do that with these textures to actually soften it up and bring it out so it's not so stark, so it's not so bold. And you can still have that depth inside your in your shading areas. It just lightens up the red a little bit, or I'm sorry, it lightens up the black a little bit. And I'll do a little bit of that with the chrome as well. I'll go back in and use some of that chrome to kind of touch up a little bit in here. We're going to paint the belt, and then we're going to do the heads, and this model is going to be done. So this piece is so big, the only place I could actually store it is up on top of my streaming desk. And it is big, it is massive, but Colossus turned out really, really well. Getting ready to do Juggernaut next, and then we'll tackle the base. The base itself is gonna take a while to do. There's so many details in this thing. And because I printed it in so many pieces, that I'm gonna have to patch everything up, putty it up, and make it look good. Now, the printer I used for this, the only one that I could use for this was the Frozen Sonic Mega 8K. I don't have another printer that could actually print these pieces. Like this section here alone was just pretty, this is like an 8x10 right alone by itself. And then of course the Juggernaut's torso is just one piece, or I'm sorry, two pieces, but it is huge. There's no other way I could have printed this on any other printer. And Frozen was also nice enough to give me some of their resin to try out. And I can tell you it's top-notch stuff, so definitely go over and check them out. For smaller pieces, I use the Uniformation GK2, like for the heads and stuff like that. But for the bigger pieces, it was the Sonic Mega 8K all the way. And for Colossus here, we do have two swap out heads. This is the first one here. This is kind of the mean mug look. And then there's this one here with the open mouth. But both of them look pretty good. Wicked did a nice job. This is an older model. It's been around for, like I said, over a year. I've seen a lot of good painters print this thing on a much smaller scale. But as you can tell, that's how big Juggernaut is. It's a big, big model. And it's been a blast to paint so far. And I'm looking forward to getting Juggernaut done. You know I'm such an idiot. I'm sitting here filming this thing and I hadn't even finished painting the belt on it yet. Let's try this again after I get the belt painted. All right, everybody, I hope you got something out of this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and a huge shout out to my Patreon members, where we have a private Discord. We have Model of the Month. We're getting ready to release Punisher Kill Crew and the Black Knight, as well as Major Blood from the G.I. Joe line. If you want to be part of the Patreon and support the channel, the link is below in the description. Get on that $10 tier for the Model of the Month. And as always, everybody, stay safe out there. Get out and create something. Print, prep, paint, repeat. And until the next video, we'll see you. So I've already started painting the Juggernaut. Part 2 coming up soon. I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.